You know, the one thing is you don't want to react as we have been in the past, and it's been unfortunate with a lot of the things that's been going on with police brutality, particularly when it comes to white supremacy racism. Uh, Something that all of us people of color we have to address. And the way to react is at the root of what this problem is, and the root of this problem is funding and financing. That's the root of this problem. And a lot of times, and I'm a financial advisor and I deal in the financial sector, and a lot of people take this for granted every single day. And we're actually today we were officially, Congress officially stated we are in a depression. Unemployment rate has shot through the roof, the highest in history. So as of May 28th, we are in a depression outside of initially being in a recession. And in something like this, people are anxious. They don't want to spend dollars. They're holding their money because they don't know where the next dollar is going to come from. The dollar, meanwhile, is constantly being printed and added to the debt ceiling, which causes hyperinflation of the dollar. Now, with this being said, it creates anxiety amongst us socially. And what happened to George Floyd was very unfortunate, but it was predicated and it was already a given loss. One thing about these local governments is they follow the lead of our present government, and that is collateral damage. They already take every fiscal year how many people they're going to jail and how many people they're going to lose. And the reason they do that is because of municipal bonds. Now, and a lot of people don't really know or even heard of the term municipal bonds.
Right.
And if you're an investing person, if you're an investor, and you're a high-powered investor, that means you have money to work with. Let's say $30,000 or more to invest. Generally, in this tier, it's about $100,000, and it's to preserve capital while generating a tax-free income stream. So municipal bonds are worth considering because municipal bonds are what we call munis in the financial world. They are debt obligations issued by government entities. So when you buy a municipal bond, you are loaning money to the issuer in exchange for a set number of interest payments over a predetermined period.
Okay.
So at the end of that period, the bond reaches its maturity. And when it does, the full amount of your original investment is returned to you. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Right. At the end of the day, what does that mean? If I'm wealthy, and let's say I live in Chicago, New York, Texas, LA, Florida, like Miami, these major cities. Let's say I live there and I want to invest in the municipalities. Well, municipalities include public works. They include parks. They include schools. Well, in the public works system, we have fire departments, and guess what else do we have? Police departments.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm investing in a municipal bond, that means that I'm building, I am an investor. I sit on a board. I'm a shareholder in the production of that police department. That means that the chief of police, the building the chief sits in, the administrative staff, the training staff, the police officers themselves, they belong to me. I'm a shareholder. Regardless of what the mayor says, the mayor answers to me because I'm a shareholder. All right. So the mayor is the CEO, and then I'm part of the board. Okay. So now my thing is I've invested $500,000, $1 million, $10 million even. Usually that's how high it goes into a city I know that can pay me back. What that does, that gives me influence on the rate of return. This is why different states have a living wage level. Each state lives at a different wage. Mm-hmm. That being the case, now I want you guys to look at this because a lot of people this is why they're not talking about it. If I have influence, the number one thing is if I'm investing in public works, when it comes to policing, I'm going to invest in jails. Jails are private companies. Jails are not public works. They're private owned companies that either lease public buildings or buy the real estate and build a building on it. But it is a private entity. How do we fill jails? We fill jails with people that get serial numbers. These people are tax write-offs. Each tax write-off that is housed Under Warehousing Act of the UCC, Article 9, they become warehousing aspects of appreciation. And this is why these inmates get this number. Well, these inmates have been invested in. They create a rate of return because this jail is going to get so much money per return. Now, in saying this, that municipal bond creates a motive. I'm an investor. I'm a shareholder. I have a jailing system already in place. My goal is to fill that jail. If I've invested in the public works, what influence am I going to have if I happen to own the jail too? I'm going to go to the mayor, and the mayor's going to know, because I'm a principal investor, we need to fill this jail. And this is why police officers have quotas. Well, we got to fill that jail. And we got to keep that ledger full. This is why the courthouses are full. This is why we get pulled over for silly stuff. This is why we're quick to be arrested and apprehended. Because that transcends into money, municipal dollars. And municipal bonds push the motive in the way that our officers act. It's not as simple as racial lines. There's racism there. We understand that. But it's not as cut and dry as these white people that are cops are attacking black people. It's not that simple. This has everything to do with political and financial status. And the terrible part about it, guys, is this can be prevented, but it won't be because of money, because of the fact that a quota has to be made to private investors. And this is what municipal bonds represent. They represent the motive as to why officers make hasty decisions, why officers are not trained, why their information is never made public, why they don't get quarterly drug screening and quarterly psychological evaluations. How come their badge number is not public along with the vehicle? The vehicle has a serial number, has a unit number. That vehicle should be with those policemen for the tenure of when they're working. Those police officers that work in those neighborhoods, how come they're not from the neighborhood? Because they should be held accountable to protect the neighborhood on and off duty. Because that neighborhood they're sowing into. So tax dollars are constantly being poured out of neighborhoods because these are nothing but investments. These are nothing but private investments, and it's a cycle to promote this kind of irrational behavior. Because obviously, unfortunately, I looked at that clipping with Mr. Floyd. I couldn't watch it, all of it, guys. I couldn't do it.
No, I couldn't either.
Personally. It's no way you could tell me that officer was sane, of his right mind. There's no way. And he's carrying a badge and a gun. So that means that damage control was not put in place. And this is what's so dangerous and so careless when we talk about this system. And this is why municipal bonds are the motivation for a lot of the broken justice system in these municipalities, large and small cities.
So how does Freddie Gray, you know what I mean, Sam Du Bois, Philando Castillo, George Floyd, how does municipal bonds take their life justifiably? Okay,
indirectly. Indirectly, it takes their lives because bills have to be filled. When you mix an officer who is supposed to be an officer of the law, and that law is supposed to be subjective to trial, when the officer is put in a position to be judge and executioner, carrying a gun and a pistol, this is the situation you're going to get. You're going to get those situations with Fernando Castillo and all those people like that because the incentive is not justice. The incentive is a bottom line. Either it's going to yield an investment or it's not. And when that happens, the justice system breaks, and you're going to have a lapse in what is supposed to be a justice system. Because underneath that, the motivation is, I'm an investor, I need a rate of return. This is my ROI, I need an ROR. This is the term that you gave me. This is the interest that it's an interest-bearing investment. I want my rate of return. Because when you see the infrastructure of these municipalities, remember, they're not federally funded. These are local funded municipalities. All municipal investments are tax-free. So it's an incentive for people to pour money into that city that have the money to do it. Once that money is circulating within that city, it's tax-free. You don't have to count it as income. So if I'm wealthy, I'm going to dump my money into a municipal bond so I'm not accountable for reportable income. And that's what makes it attractive to do that. And so when you're doing that, that's what's going to determine what's justified and what isn't. Because when we look across the nation, arrest rates are very inconsistent. The law is always ambiguous when it's being enforced. It's never uniform across the entire country. What you do in Texas, you do the same thing in California. It can be two different outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And depending upon the officer and their understanding and objective understanding of the law and their ability to enforce it at that moment. You understand? And so the inconsistency is absolutely ridiculous. It's just like the young lady, forgive me for not being able to, I think her first name is Brianna. She was just murdered by police officers that shot her 8 times. They shot into her house 20 times when they kicked the door down in plain clothes.
Right.
That is absolutely violating procedure for a warrant. Because you have to announce who you are, or the person in the house has a right to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And but it gets blurred, and they say, well, we're going to investigate the issue. Well, it's a woman lying dead. So we know that murder was committed. Regardless, why isn't that officer detained until the investigation is done? The same issue with Aubrey. The same situation with Aubrey. They're saying that these laws allowed it. They're talking ambiguous laws, but they're not talking the fact that the municipal bonds support and fund the municipalities that make these ambiguous laws. That give the ambiguity to do whatever you want to do because the shareholders have determined that they want a rate of return and they're having a tax break in the money that they invest. So when you have these high profile people, and I'm talking about people that are notable, I'm talking about the big time celebrities and the big time business owners, they invest in municipal bonds. It's called hedging. So if I can put my money in a tax-free vehicle at a higher rate, my income rate goes down. And so does my tax rate. It goes down. Now, when I start creating holding companies and subsidiaries, now I'm not attached to any of that income. So now my income becomes privatized. And that's exactly what's happening. This is why they can't just lock an officer up when he murders someone. Because of due process, what they call due process. Because these municipal bonds have a means of protecting a civil officer. Because the municipal bond itself is how the laws are written. They're written based on the rate of investments by private shareholders who dictate the ebb and flow of why they need that municipal bond to go by or pass. And if I guarantee you, if I'm an investor and I own a jail, I need my jail filled to capacity. And I need a waiting list to keep it filled. This is why people with child support are in jail. People that run stop signs and it's a third striker in jail. People that have financial crimes are in jail. That shouldn't be. And the jail system is broken. This is why we have a disproportionate amount of black people considering black men in jail. Because they're in areas that promote anxiety, low housing, food deserts, and no employment. And when you see that municipal bonds support that because it funds these municipalities in the way that they run. You tell me a police officer put his knees on the neck of a man who was already handcuffed, right, and not defend himself, and the chief isn't fired.
And the mayor and the governor is calling for everything to be fired and still nothing. Nothing.
Because the shareholders are blocking that. How can the governor say we need to fire this guy? And it's a no. You're telling the governor no? You're telling the mayor no?
Yeah.
It's the municipal bonds that block that because there are people that are influencers that are saying, no, that's my guy that's sitting in that police station and he's going to stay there. That's the guy that I put there. And this is what I've invested in your city. And that holds more jurisdiction than the actual people that live in the city. And it's collateral damage. And that's what's dangerous. And we have to start understanding that. So when we protest, we need to protest, okay, I need the municipal bonds. I need the SEC information on this municipal bond. I need to know who sits on the platform that supported this bond. I need to know the politicians who voted for this funding. I need to know who was trying to get a tax break for this funding. what corporation that's more than likely a holding company or a subsidiary that invested into this municipal bond. Because this municipal bond is funding these public works, and Minnesota has a long track record of police brutality. This is just the one that happened to be publicized. But Minnesota has had a long tenure of police brutality. It's one of the highest cities of police brutality in the country.
Wow.
So explain to me how that's not a coincidence. Chicago, the same way. New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, the same way. Any of us in these cities know, go to court in Philadelphia and see what happens to you. And you're a black man. Have 2 strikes and go to district court in Philadelphia and watch how much time.
Yeah.
So it's consistent in cities where black males are per capita outnumbering everyone else in a concentrated area. So you take policemen that don't even live in the area, that are not accountable for their conduct, practicing misconduct on unbeknownst people, not knowing that their agenda is they're being paid to be misconductful. They're being paid, I need to lock up 10 people today or I can't feed my daughter. This is in the mind of that police officer. I need to feed my child or I lose my child. So what do you think that officer's going to do? He's going to lock you up because he has to get home and feed his people, not knowing that the orders he's getting from that chief is because a municipal bond sat him in that seat, built that building, made it possible to have funding to pay each and every one over there. And so when we study municipal bonds, and it's a lot to cover, it's a lot to cover in municipal bonds, but I hope that me talking about it, people will start researching what municipal bonds do and what they're accountable for. Because they're definitely accountable for the politics that often go ignored once it reaches the media. By the time it gets to us, we're seeing the after effects. We're seeing what has been developed over a period of time. We're not seeing why do we need the highest number of jailing facilities in the entire world? Why do we have the highest number of jailing facilities and overcrowding more so than any country in the world? Well, we're supposed to be a first world country, yet we incarcerate more of our people than anywhere in the world. It makes absolutely no sense. And the reason is because that transfers to privatized dollars. That transfer, it's not a coincidence because our jailing system is free market. I don't know if everybody knows that. Our jailing systems they're not state owned. They're state funded. And each state, by way of the governor, gets funding to operate those jailing systems. So those buildings are owned by private subsidiaries and holding companies. They're not owned by the state. The state prisoner owned by the state is housed. They're warehoused in that facility. That's what that is. That has nothing to do with the state law or the federal law. It's private. It's private. So the conduct and everything that goes on in that jail cannot be regulated by any state because it's privatized. So the warden, who is a representative of whatever company owns that jail, gets awarded a certain amount of money to house the prisoners on behalf of the state. Basically a babysitter. We need you to house these people for us that have violated the law. And they get a check up front, and then they house those people based on a per capita rate every year. And that jail has to meet a certain quota in order to obligate the contract that the city has gone or state has filed with them. So the agenda is there, the purpose is there, and the root of it is municipal bonds.
Ooh, man, what does the FBI have to do in their role in this? Why did they come in? Why did they have to come in?
Yes. Well, the FBI supersedes any constitutional law. They enforce constitutional laws. However, they operate privately within the Constitution. They are not, again, the Federal Bureau of Investigations is a bureau. It is not a governmental entity. It is separate of the entity. It is annexed to the entity. Shit. And because of that, they too are privately funded. They are a division of OID, which is an IRS division. We do not pay taxes to fund the FBI. That is private funding. So there are investors that invest in the Bureau of Federal Investigations. This is why crime is broken down into a commercial status. If you look at Code of Federal Regulations 72, Part 72, Subpart 11, all crimes are commercial. There is no crime that is a moral crime outside of murder, which is capital punishment, either death or life in prison. However, all other crimes are crimes of commerce, which means they carry bonds. And once a bid bond is issued, then a performance bond is issued. When that performance bond is issued, that means that money is sent and paid for by private investors to bond that person and hold them liable for jail time to recoup their funds. So the FBI supports bonding because they're a separate entity, and that's why they do what they do. That's why they go out of their way to investigate a person. How can the FBI have a 98th percentile win rate in a court that is supposed to be about justice? You're telling me every time the FBI takes somebody to jail,
they're right. Yeah, they're
every
right.
time?
Yeah, exactly.
They're never wrong?
Word.
From the history of the inception of the FBI? It makes absolutely no sense. But the incentive to that is that judge that's sitting on that bench is part of a municipal bond. Their salary comes from municipality, district courts, and circuit courts. Those are not constitutional courts. Those are nothing but annexes of constitutional law. The only time we get our constitutional rights exercised is when we're sitting before the Supreme Court. But you got to get there because you got to get through the circuit or district. Then you got to appeal. Then once you go through the appellate system, then you got to petition to have your court heard before the Supreme Court of each state. And then, win or lose, you have to petition for the Supreme Court to even want to hear your case. And they only hear a number of cases in a year because each state has a governor that governs and a comptroller. That comptroller controls all the money that goes in and out of that state. When you see Illinois and you see Michigan, they're the last two to close, to open up. Each state is getting an allotment based on the CARES Act. Now they're coming with the HEROES Act. They set aside $3 trillion right now for both acts. Most people haven't even gotten their first stimulus. Some have not. The second stimulus we're waiting on. Last week we were supposed to get it, but Senate said, no, we're going on vacation. So they went on vacation and stalled everybody out. But the problem is they can't get the investment for the municipal bonds because the small businesses and business owners that would normally have money don't because of this depression. So they're waiting for the stimulus to be active again so they can pull tax money from people. And that's why it's called a stimulus. A lot of people thought it was go get a big screen check. It wasn't. It's to stimulate tax. With tax, municipal bonds get money. That's what the taxing system does. And that's what our government is built on. And if we're going to attack and stop this kind of system, we need to go and start questioning how these municipal bonds are dispersed and how and who invests in them as a public people. The protesting, standing in front of the jail, I don't understand why you do it. Why not go to the guy's house, the officer's house? Why not go to those 4 guys' house? Because that municipality it's not going to get you anywhere. They're bought and sold and paid for. It could be officers there that agree with you, but they're going to suit up in their riot gear, and that same officer is going to shoot tear gas at you. That's what he's paid to do. His opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we have to start operating at and looking at things at the core of things. And unfortunately, the way that media plays a role now, it distorts the actual reason. Because come on, guys, how many times is this going to keep happening?
Exactly.
I mean, how many times are we going to keep protesting and it keep happening? It doesn't seem like any fear is in any police station. They'll do it again, and they're doing it still. Right. If we stop the police from doing this, this one just happened to be caught on camera. But this happens every single day. I grew up in Chicago. We were used to that. We knew police could kill you. We already knew that. It wasn't we didn't need any instructions on please do what they tell you to do. It didn't matter. They would do it anyway. They would kill you anyway. It just depends on what mood they were in that day.
Man, there is so many places we can go with this, man. This could be definitely a 2-hour show, but he said something that stuck out that was really intriguing earlier, and he talked about hip hop and artists and whatnot. And we probably can't. There's no way for us to find out which one of these artists invest in these bonds. But could you talk about the correlation between those bonds and these lyrics, and them also, encouraging people to do different crimes so they can now fuel the system because they got the bonds on the back end?
Oh man, that's heavy. That's heavy, y'all. That's fourth dimensional chess right there. Of course, the music industry is owned by a certain sector of people. Okay. Now, every now and then you have an anomaly, right? You have a Kanye or Jay-Z, right? That on the books, they're billionaires, but they're employees. They don't push status quo. The market is already been an established market. And the way that is, it's the politics. In order to throw a concert in a major area, you know who's the first person you got to see? The mayor.
Mayor.
The second person is the supervisor or alderman in that ward. If they're not happy, there's no concert. Or the police will be there directly to help shut your concert down. They'll catch somebody with some paraphernalia, concert done. Guess who hurts? The promoter. Now the promoter doesn't trust you, and the promoter can't make money. And the promoter is paid for by the politician. It's heavy, heavy politics in the music industry. So when you're talking about now, especially with the new normal, it's going to be interesting to see how these cities are going to be able to manufacture concerts that bring in money at a high rate with this coronavirus going on. But I will say that the music industry is heavy laden when it comes to municipal bonds, because municipal bonds build stadiums, multi-use stadiums. If you notice, subsidiary companies are getting naming rights on these buildings now. In Chicago, the Chicago Bulls Stadium now is the United Center. That's a subsidized airline. All right, it's owned by Boeing, but its subsidiary is United. See, right. So that is already a holding company that's only there to protect the assets of United Airlines. And so United gets naming rights because that is a public work building. This is why you have franchise teams that move from city to city, state to state. The same way artists come into a town, you're just not going to fill up a 30,000 seat venue and not pay taxes, man. The venue was built and designed for that to happen anyway, because somebody's money got to hit the laundromat. That's just another laundromat to clean money. That's all it really is.
When you talk about artists or in the industry, are we talking about labels or are we talking about actual artists? And if we are talking about actual artists, what caliber of artists could even pull off investing in municipal bonding and things like that? Now, you don't got to name anybody by name because obviously we don't know by name, but what caliber of artists? If in fact it was
artists that are in constant rotation that have high levels of publishing rights, that own publishing rights in music at a high level. And I'm sure you know who these artists are. Those that are able to keep their rights. Those that actually own a label and don't have a subsidized label. Now, there are a lot of famous people that have subsidized labels, like historical labels, without naming names, that people say, oh man, they're giving birth to many multi-platinum, diamond level selling artists, but they're nothing more than a subsidiary. But then you have artists that actually create viable labels on their own. And those people do sit at the table and they do partake in municipal bonds. It is the only sensible thing to do when you're making money at that level, because you got to get that money out of that tax bracket.
Are these some of the same people?
You're going to lose too much of it.
Are these some of the same artists that are out here saying free George Floyd and out here screaming and hollering right now on social media?
Yeah. Of course. It has to be. And it's not me assuming this. It's the way municipal bonds work. Of course. And they'll be doing it again and again and again, because the actual entity is the is the shareholder. That person that's talking that is a shareholder. So they have stake in the collateral damage that system makes every now and then. Every now and then you're going to get a burn. You're going to get a Floyd. Every now and then you get a Floyd. Every now and then. But for the most part, it's in and out, in and out. Floyd, again, and I don't minimize this. My heart goes out to the family of that brother. But Floyd happens every day.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't, and some people don't know that. I don't believe I'm just preaching to the choir. Some people that are listening, this happens every single day. It's not a day go by that an officer doesn't take it too far. Don't get it twisted. People that have come up in that environment, I know I did. When you get pulled over, you really don't know if you're gonna make it out alive, and that's a fact. Because officers, when the camera's not on, officers say some of the craziest things.
Oh yeah.
Like, look, I had a rough day. Now I will blow your head off if you say one word to me,
Mm-hmm.
and they mean it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had guns put to my head, the hammer cocked back.
Mm-hmm.
Move again. And they mean it. So this is normal. It's just that it's sensationalized. And the reason why it's normal is because they have money backing their actions. There's a bond on every single badge that an officer wears. There is a bond that ensures and protects them. If me and you murdered somebody, they're not going to say, well, you go home until we get the investigation underway.
Especially on camera, right?
Yeah, you're locked up. They're locking you up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a bonding process in place, so they have due process that protects them under that bond and oath that they gave to that badge. So they have favor, and the only reason they do is because they are a conduit for money that's generated to pay back people that funded the city and built the police station in the first place. Because the city is on the hook to pay these people back. The city doesn't pay them back. The city gets sued. The city, all the officers in that city are gone. And they're exposed. And there's jail time behind that because there can be misappropriation of funds. Mm-hmm. And that's very important. And the Security Exchange Commission, which is the SEC, publicizes all platform transactions. We just don't question it and we don't ask it. We need the 8K and the 10K prospectus on the municipal bond involving the city of Chicago. Here in the city of Chicago, a few years ago, guys, all of our parking meters were sold to a private foreign company.
Wow.
So all the parking meters in the city of Chicago don't belong to Chicago. They belong to a subsidiary out of Asia somewhere. Can't remember the name of it. So all that revenue goes to Asia because they borrowed money from an Asian company beforehand, and they gave them all the meters to pay them back.
Damn.
So this happens in every major city. This isn't the only city.
Now talk about the states and the funding, and you talked about the depression earlier to kind of switch up a little bit, and you see some of these states have opened up, and you see some states remain closed. Are they trying in certain places to make things worse, or are they generally looking out for the health of the people? Because certain places are allowed, in the South that are reopened, they're doing fine now, but certain places people aren't working. They haven't been working, and they're not getting any type of government assistance. So can you kind of speak to that whole process if you can?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not that they want to make it worse, though, God. What it is filibustering. You got the House of Representatives is Democratic right now. Democratic majority. And the Senate is Republican. So they're arguing over principle. And the principle is this dollar is rapidly losing. It's not gaining, it's losing. The only thing that's keeping the dollar going right now is the petrodollar. But the U.S. dollar, we're losing money here. And what's happening is trade. The United States has been in a trade deficit for at least 60 years. It's in a trade deficit, meaning they borrowed money from other countries under the assumption that they were going to be able to market whatever the country brings into our government. Just like what I noticed, subtle thing. I went to go buy dumbbells because I couldn't go to the gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any dumbbells. And there are no dumbbells in the country.
Right.
Because they come from China. So if you want a dumbbell, you're gonna almost pay $3 a pound right now. Hand sanitizer, you're lucky if you find it. Because it's not produced here. It's subsidiaries that get the hand sanitizer, put their label on the hand sanitizer. So it's white label, but it's manufactured elsewhere. And so the United States has a super high trade deficit. We owe everybody money as a government. And now this is what this is exposing. So of course, it's going to be filibustering in the Capitol, and they're going to put they're going to paint a simple picture of the government just doesn't care about people. No, that's not it. See, that is the filibustering and the influence that government has on media. Because they're just going to tell the media what they want the people to hear. And that's pretty much it. That's how that's going to work. Other than that, no, it's completely and utterly an argument between Senate and the House and Congress. It's completely that. And that's terrible because it's petty, but it's affecting us on the whole. And in the states are clamoring to get as much of that federal money as they can. $3 trillion that have been set aside for the states. They haven't even spent $1 trillion yet. The money is just sitting there. They won't even distribute the money like they said they would. We're looking at the biggest unemployment boom in history. So that means there are other things attached to this CARES Act, oh God. They're talking about for the next 13 months, there will be no rent paid and all mortgages should be forgiven for at least 13 months to allow the public to reset.
Yeah.
They're arguing that. They're actually saying, some are saying no.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a job.
They say, hell no.
They're saying no. And then the government is saying, well, some of the Treasury is like, well, we can't print money fast enough. You're a damn lie. You don't even print money. You just add a zero to the ledger. You're not printing physical money because legal tender has no value. It only has the value of trade. Well, guess what? You're not trading with anybody because of this epidemic, this pandemic. So it's starting to when you watch this, the contradictions are starting to show themselves, and it's starting to look more and more like we're going to hit this reset button on this money and alleviate the debt. As a financial specialist, my question is, why don't you just wipe everybody's credit clean, give them an 800, and move on?
Yeah, that'll work.
Hell yeah.
What do I need money for?
Right.
You want to force me to go spend it so I can get taxed on it?
Yeah.
I don't want your dollars. That's why I'm in the shape I'm in now. I'm using your money.
Yeah.
I've always told we need to dump the dollar. If we want to make changes in what these officers are doing to our people, stop using U.S. dollars. Use credit. Go get secure credit cards. Buy everything with a credit card. Pay with a credit card. Use your debit card in your bank to pay your credit card. Don't buy even grocery shopping. Go get a secure credit card if you don't have it. If you can't, if your credit's not good. Stop using the U.S. dollar. Stop circulating it. Let them go ahead and hyperinflate it. Reset it if you want to. Because they're preying on the public for something that they could alleviate. Because they're borrowing money from themselves and forcing us to pay for it. Congress is borrowing money from the Treasury that's working in the same capacity and claims we're in debt. How are we in debt? With what? The US dollar is a fiat bill. It doesn't carry debt. It carries tax. So now you get mad because the public, they're free market thinkers now because you forced us. You told us to stay in the house. Shut the companies down. Now we're thinking alternatively. Schools are giving away degrees for free now, online. People are finding out that's a scam because you got to go to school with interest now. It's called a student loan. So people are saying, you know what? Tell you what. How about I not work for you and I do me? How about I just go into direct sale? That's now people are starting to allocate their money and amortize it. So that means that they're not going across the cash register. That means that business can't make money. That business doesn't pay taxes. That business closes down. That business leaves the country. That business goes overseas. This is what Trump argues about. This is why he doesn't want us in NATO. This is why he's trying as hard as he can to stop import and export from happening. No, I don't want to trade with China. For what? They paid $30 million. We paid $130 million to WHO. These are things that are being argued in Congress that we're not talking about, because we're thinking and talking, acting like socialists in a capitalist government. You can't be a socialist in a capitalist government. You can only be a capitalist in a capitalist government. There's nothing wrong with being a private capitalist. I can be an ethnic capitalist. If I have a business and I'm only going to hire black people, that's what the hell I want to do.
Word.
I have a right to do that because it's being done to us anyway. So it's the system that perpetuates the lack of a justice system, the lack of the consistency within the justice system, and the disparaging facts of how so many black men are incarcerated in a penal system that's privately funded and not predicated on justice. The penal system is just a housing system. The care, what about the people in these jail cells? Now, you would think that with this social distancing, the inmates in jail, it would be like ridiculous coronavirus going on. It's not. Why is that? But on the outside out here, we're in danger, but everybody in the jail isn't. But people are still getting arrested going in there. 2, 3 in a cell, holding cells and all. But you don't see a big influx of coronavirus there. This is not making sense. It's not adding up. I'm not trying to sound like some conspiracy theorist guy.
I'm with you, brother.
I'm just throwing questions out there that nobody seems to be able to answer.
Facts.
Definitely. So yeah, man. One last question I got for you is: where do you see the country in the next 5 years? Not even. Let's just say the next 2 years. Now, unemployment at an all-time high. I think it's like 50 million people out of work. What is it going to look like in the next couple of years for the regular person, man, out here?
Well, I do see a trend of home-based business. I do see businesses adjusting to the effects of this pandemic, what it did fiscally. And I do see a rise in home-based businesses that train people from home and have them work on the internet. Manufacturing won't be an issue because it's already been overseas. There's very few manufacturing done in the United States. So that's not going to affect that. But on the whole, this is going to be the rise of you're going to see the most wealthy people that you've ever seen. It's going to be now that if you have aspirations of being a millionaire, now's the time. Now, with that being said, the reason I say that is because you're going to need $1 million just to live an average life. So taxes are going to go up. Property taxes are going up because the real estate market is getting ready to crash like nothing before. If you want to buy real estate, you better buy it now because the interest rates are wonderful.
Yeah.
You better, because people are thinking and hoping that this vaccine is going to do what it does. And a lot of people have confidence in this upcoming vaccine. But then now there's an undertone that this pandemic may just happen every year forever. That this pandemic may not ever go anywhere. So it'll be 9/11 all over again. It'll be a new normal. And that's what's weighing. That's why they're holding back on stimulus. That's why they're kind of in a stagnant position. That's why Trump said, governors, you're on your own. I'm opening the country, and I don't care what you do about it. He said, I'm not shutting the country down again. We have to continue to trade because this economy cannot crash.
Yeah.
So regardless of what we think, I guess our thoughts don't matter. Taxes and everything's going to keep going. And so you're going to need that money in order to live an average life. $100,000 a year in California is middle income. In the country, $105,000, you're considered wealthy. But if you move to California, you're no longer wealthy.
New Jersey too, I bet.
Yeah, Jersey property taxes are ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Powerful, man. We definitely appreciate you, man. We got an interview in the next few minutes, man. I wish we could continue this conversation, but we definitely got to continue to do it more, man. We got real busy there, and we're gonna definitely get you back on, man, for your weekly or bi-weekly show real soon, bro.
Sure.
Man, no doubt. Keep growing, guys.
Hey, man. Well, without holding you too long, man, happy birthday to you.
Once again.
You know what I'm saying? We got the God in the building, Khan, Su, Sheshmu, Amun, man. Let the people know where they could find you at, brother. Give them the handle before we get about it.
No question. You guys can find me on Instagram, Kansu19, Facebook, Kansu Sheshmu Amun, YouTube, Kansu Sheshmu. Reach out to me, guys. I would appreciate it greatly.
Definitely hit this brother up, man. Wealth and knowledge. You already know what it is, man. And we'll definitely be in contact with you, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, bro.
No question, man. You guys too.
Appreciate you.
All right, peace.